Hi guys, Tugger here with a new video, and this video will be a video talking about rated battlegrounds, but about, of course, solo queue, duo queue, battleground blitz, which is the new game mode that is going to come out in 10.2, which is a test run for the ultimate, probably ranked game mode that is going to come out hopefully in 10.2.5 or 10.2.7. Hopefully not 13 because it 10.3, excuse me, because it will be too far away. But I want to talk and tackle a few points. We are currently on the PTR, so we're still in the queue. I don't think it will pop because I think it's still not active. But if it is, at least we're testing. But I want to talk about a specific post I see on the forums. Multi-queue RBGs. So it's like someone that is not really okay with the solo queue idea because he thinks it's a bad idea. In my opinion, I think this should allow up to 3 people queue together. Let's face it, solo queue will nuke the amount of players doing 10-man queue. So he's talking about like rated battlegrounds going to die because of it. And it will be a ghost town, meaning in solo queue will be where 90% of the players will be. And I think it's rightfully so. I think the current gaming landscape asks for solo queue. They are all games that have competitive PvP or competitive like esport or whatever, like for example Valorant, Dota, League of Legends. Even like right now with Solo Shuffle, you see it's insanely popular. Any game really has solo queue, and yes, you have also team queues, but solo queue and how you play solo queue is the most popular form because people don't want to wait for people to play with. Of course, if you have friends and you play together, of course you can do that, and you will do that, but not everyone has the same schedules as other. For example, I am a dad of 2, I still follow lessons about programming, and I also do YouTube. So again, I'm not like in line with all my friends at everything, and not all my friends are still playing World of Warcraft, for example. So a solo queue benefits me insanely, also duo queuing. But RBGing, finding a community, having a guild that wants to play every single time, no beef, no whatever, no toxicity. The LFG system is quite bad. Pugging is really bad on RBGs. You can find a good pug, but it is really more about luck or about like dedication of finding like said community to play with, which not everyone has the time for. So we're going to still read what he's saying, and you're getting to play RBGs with your friends will be almost non-existent, which is not the case. But if it is non-existent, it means that you're actually facing mostly pugs or people that are actually don't really want to play RBGs. They want to get the conquest, or they want to just farm the vault, for example, but they are not really playing RBGs because they want to actually compete in RBGs. A flex queue would be better. I think the golden number would be 3. People should be able to go from 3v3 right into RBGs without dropping anyone. But that's in the ideal world. You know what's going to happen? Someone is going to queue as a trio queue versus a full stack team. And guess what is going to happen? They're going to lose 1600 to 0 because, again, a full stack team that is playing every single night together, or they're boosting someone, because again, let's face it, in RBGs you have a lot of boosters that actually get money for boosting one guy to 1600 or 1800 to get the elite set, and that's it. Guys, you should really understand how the RBG scene is looking. If you're playing in a community, you're either facing pugs, which is a free win for you, you're either facing another community, which is 50-50, those are the better games, or you're facing a boosting team, which effectively in EU you're facing, let's say, a boosting team that is like composed with 9 top players or people that are actually playing together every single night and have the best possible comp, which is the meta comp, and have like one guy that is just getting boosted for CR, MMR, or whatever reason he is getting boosted. Those are the 3 possibilities. And let's face it, you see mostly pugs and you see mostly boosters. You don't really have a lot of communities that are actually set and play versus each other. And the higher you go up, the more likely you will see boosters and communities than pugs. And pugs are like around 1400, 1500, 1600 because you get a lot of points easily by just winning one until you get like 1600. Then it becomes very slow because you're actually losing games versus said communities that are always playing with each other, or said boosters that are also playing every single time with each other. So that is the thing. And if you put a trio queue actually in that bracket, it just makes it way easier for those boosters and those communities to actually farm you guys. This is just a thing that benefits them. It's not benefiting you anymore. This is not going to help anyone but the boosters and the communities actually seeking for the easier games. Again, if people are not playing RBGs because there is a solo queue or a duo queue version with probably a better format, let's be real, 8 versus 8 with 2 healers, and sometimes in tanks and sometimes not, because again, you can play as 6 DPS versus 6 DPS, which is probably the best format that you could have in RBGs. People are going to go for the better format or the better way to play the game. Then it deserves maybe to die. And again, I'm a huge fan of RBGs. I love RBGs. I played also with a community. I kind of left the community because I didn't really like the toxicity around it. I didn't really like every single night we played together. It was not really fun. Let's be honest. It was fun sometimes, but then in retrospective, I told myself, like, is it really worth it to play with them? So I just left them. But I love BGs. I love how it works. But let's face it, how many BGs do you win, like, on the edge of the seat? No, generally you either win from the get-go, from the first team fight, or you lose from the first team fight, because it is just how it is. And I just prefer solo queue or duo queue form with a 8 versus 8 with like shorter matches and like modified maps to a certain extent that will be making the game way more active and way more effective. But let's continue, right? A reason a lot of players currently play healers is to specifically heal their friends. That's not true. And healers will be far more likely to queue if they can bring a friend or two, which is not true. Again, that's why there is a duo queue. It's not solo queue, it's a duo queue as well. So if you want to play healer and you have a friend that is DPS, it works perfectly fine. I also think two double healers will be able to actually play together. Double DPS will not be able to play together in the duo queue sentence on how they explained it. But again, that's a non-issue. Again, it's only this whole text is only benefiting the guys that are actually playing RBGs, which is not a lot, that are playing RBGs for playing RBGs. You have boosters, you have communities, and then you have pugs, which often they're playing as a pug because they don't have a community, or they're just going for conquest, or they're going for the easy 1600 or 1800 if they can reach that as a pug, which is highly unlikely. But they're not really like trying to climb in RBGs. Not only that, but people would feel like playing a healer was more worth it because you could get you and your friends into games much faster than 3 DPS. That's true, because in RBGs, yes, getting 3 DPS in the same group is very hard. You just make your own group. But let's face it, it's also easier to just queue Battleground Blitz and you will be for sure into a group. You will not have to battle between getting a meta spec into the group, because again, not every single spec is meta. If you want to play arcane mage in RBGs and you have a community, good luck getting an arcane mage actually playing. That's not true. That's not going to happen. Right now, fire mage is alright, frost mage also, but let's think in season 1, fire mage was really crap. Season 1, frost mage was also very crap. In Shadowlands, mages are like D tier, and they become better because they have more utility now. With, for example, the ice wall on certain maps is really strong. But enhancement shaman, they don't get invites in RBGs in a pug, and in communities they will just ask you either to heal or reroll or go elemental shaman, which effectively they're going to say reroll to warlock if you are like a serious community. So again, it's more likely one of them buys a bullet and heals. I'm a healer main, just giving my own perspective. I'm going to say that your perspective is very narrow. If you don't have a community, then you don't have all the cards, and you're really just trying to say, look, pugs are better than solo queue, which is not. And if you're a community, effectively, you're trying to benefit yourself. I'm going to say that solo queue, duo queue is going to be the reason why retail PvP is going to thrive in the future if they're doing it correctly. Again, it depends highly on matchmaking, on let's say the points, the MMR, the lever buster, I would say. So if someone leaves, what happens? Is there like a fill position that you could take, for example, in the queue to actually join the groups that are maybe having a lever, for example, and get some benefits from it? I don't know. They can find something, and they can find some ways to actually make leaving not so annoying for the ally team. Maybe give a buff to the players that are still in the BG. For example, 25% DPS buff and health buff. I don't know. They can still find a way, but they need to see and rectify that. And that's why I'm actually testing on the PTR, but it doesn't pop. So I think it's not active, but once it's active, I'm going to test it every single day until we have the best possible solo queue experience. But there is a reason why games just thrive out of solo queue. Team-based games are cool, but it's better whenever it's organically made because of players actually wanting to play together. Right now, you have to play together. You have to actually find a community, which sometimes is very hard. Again, if you're an enhancement shaman, good luck finding a community, by the way. If you're like I don't know, man. I'm thinking. Like I'm trying to stretch to the ridicule, right? Most specs are good in RBGs, but like let's say you're a survival hunter, it's not really good. BM hunter, to be honest, is not really good. It's like a node seeder pretty much. You can have anything else, and it would be probably better. But I'm going to say that people should realize the huge benefits that solo queue, duo queue would have. First and foremost, duo queue is a fantastic way to actually get a faster queue. If you are a DPS and you have a healer friend, you can just queue up and boom, you're probably inside an RBG already. Or you can say, look, you're both DPS, but you want to play together and you want to have fast queues. You play healer once, we get a faster queue. The next one I will heal and you go DPS. Something like that could be happening, and it could be a good benefit for you and for your ally to get faster queues, to get games going. You will also, again, benefit from being a duo queue. So I think all those things combined screams to me that it's a good idea to have a solo queue RBG. People are saying that it's a bad idea. I can't still find a way to actually say, look, you're right. Because people are fighting with the belief of RBGs are worth it to actually remove a solo queue option for that bracket, which is insane. The RBG bracket is close to dying. It is worse than 2v2, and 2v2 is not healthy, by the way. So for me, RBGs, they should not scrap it, but they should redesign it to a 8 versus 8. Like for example, Battleground Blitz, they redesigned RBGs to a Battleground Blitz, but you can invite your friends, and you can play without tank. So you don't have the hassle of finding a Vengeance Demon Hunter or a Garden Druid, which is those two are the better the tanks of the game. I think Vengeance Demon Hunter currently is better than Garden Druid. But you can also, let's say, we're going to play 6 DPS instead of 1 tank. So you can actually face other people that are playing 6 DPS and no tank. And that's a fantastic thing. I think that would be actually revitalizing RBGs. I think RBGs is really limited with the 3 healer, 1 tank mentality, which is needed because that's the meta. But I think the more DPSs you can have inside of a BG, the better, because the games are going to be faster. To group up and have LFG, it will be also better. And I think just in general, it will be more healthy. But that is kind of what I'm going to say. In this video, people are currently the vast minority of players. This is a minority, it's a vocal minority though, that is actually saying that solo queue RBG is going to be a flop, which is, again, I'm going to say mind-boggling, because it's going to be one of the better things going on retail. I think I am personally going to play a lot more RBGs than arenas. I love arenas because it is very competitive. It is very fun to play with friends in 3s, very fun to play with 1 friend in 2s, very fun to play solo shuffle whenever it pops. But the BGs, battlegrounds, are the reason why I'm playing actually World of Warcraft PvP. Since 2005, in EU, whenever the Battleground patch was out, and I was like little, so I was a very slow leveler, I was like really enjoying playing Battlegrounds. I enjoyed it so much, so I had a level 19 twink, a level 29 twink, a level 39 twink. I had like a level 60 that was somewhat badly geared because I was little, so I didn't really raid too much. But we played some BGs and it was very fun. I played Hunter, so gear is like, again, good, but you can still perform as a Hunter without gear at that time. TBC, I played mostly Battlegrounds. Arenas, it was still very new and very elitist. Then you have Wrath of the Lich King, where at that point I have friends that were actually at my school and they said, oh, you're playing World of Warcraft. I play also World of Warcraft. Let's do Arenas. We did 3v3 TSG, but I did mostly build Battlegrounds. And guess why? Because you had montage PvPs, videos from Swifty, Drake Dog, Ferdinand. You had World of Warcraft, Roguecraft. You have loads of ways, like Warcraft movies. You had so many ways to enjoy those BGs and said, look, it could be me. I could be like the warrior that is going to one-shot, two-shot people. And again, that was the way why I'm playing World of Warcraft. And it was not Arena that made me play World of Warcraft. Arena kind of made me stay on World of Warcraft whenever Battlegrounds were failing, because they failed to reward players or failed to make it good or failed to make it impactful. But the main reason why I personally played World of Warcraft, it was because of BGs. And I think most people actually known World of Warcraft through BGs and not through Arenas. I think Arenas, at the time, people are looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, but it was very elitist. It was very hard to actually find people to play on your server because there was no cross-server LFG. I think if you're going on Wrath of the Lich King right now and try to find a 2s or 3s or 5s partner, good luck. It's not very easy. You have to farm those BattleNet tags, which you didn't really had that back in the time. You had no BattleNet. So people should realize how big it is to actually find, again, Battlegrounds being the center of PvP and the center of the attention of PvP. That's for the better. I think also Battleground Blitz in a competitive esport environment could be a serious good watch with multiple cameras, multiple views, multiple POVs. It could be a way to actually revitalize also the esport for World of Warcraft. But that would be another video. But I want to say people should really disregard those comments, and this is like a positive negative one. It's a negative one, but it has like a positive spin. They want to bring something new to their own bracket, which I can understand. I also want something non 3s and 2s. I want more rewards though. I don't want to kill solo shuffle for it, but I think people should go and watch a bit further than their nose and just understand how minority of the minority it is to be in RBG communities and guilds. It's really not easy to enter one, especially if you're not a meta class. Again, even as Elemental Shaman, you will have difficulties finding groups because they want a warlock, because they want a balanced druid, because if they don't find those two, they want to play with a shadow priest, for example. They're not really willing to play with Elemental Shaman, although Elemental Shaman is also very prominent. But anyways, this is my take. In general, I would say try to test on the PTR once it can actually pop. Right now it doesn't really pop, unfortunately. But if it can, please do. Also, try to give feedback. Not like say remove Deep Wind Gorge. Don't. Just say, look, maybe Deep Wind Gorge is too big of a map to have 5 nodes at all times. Maybe activate 2 nodes at every single time and try to make it a very active PG where you're constantly trying to rotate instead of like fighting on like middle and trying to get 3 points out of 2. You need to give like those kinds of feedback because they're not going to remove a map for removing a map's sake. I think Deep Wind Gorge is a good map. I think it could be better, of course, if it was a bit smaller, but it would be nicer if you actually had like 2 nodes to fight on, for example. Make it different than Arati Basin. And Arati Basin, I think it's fine to have like 5 nodes, but you can make it interesting. But that's why you need to give feedback instead of like saying that something needs to be removed. For example, tanks should not be removed of PvP. It's a hot take, but I want to make another video for that. I already did a video for that, but I'm going to, for sure, make a video in the future about that because it's a hot topic as well for solo queue. But let's talk about it in another time.